Welcome to Preservation Oaks, the podcast where we invite you to step away from the bustle of everyday life. Settle in and relax, and take a moment to leave the familiar behind as we explore the hidden gems of America that preserve our cultural past. We call them our Preservation Oaks, and with each episode, we'll journey to a different corner of the country, where we'll discover the unique histories, landscapes, and communities that make up our nation. We'll visit with local museums, historical and genealogical societies. They are the stewards of these stories. They preserve the legacy of each place like precious pieces of fabric in a quilt that binds the freedom-loving, hardworking people in this country together. So, slow down, grab a beverage, open your mind, and let us take you on a tour of the fascinating histories and heartfelt traditions that lie just beyond the horizon. This is Preservation Oaks, where every story is a stitch in the fabric of our shared culture. Now, join our host, Sean Radcliffe, as he uncovers another thread in the tapestry of America's heritage and what it takes to preserve it.
Hey there. My name is Sean Radcliffe, and I'm the host of the Preservation Oaks podcast. Welcome to another episode. This is the place where history comes alive. We've got a fantastic program for you today. Joining us is Ms. Bobbie Mathis, President of the Union City Society for Historic Preservation in Union City, Michigan. This dedicated organization preserves and promotes the rich history of Union City and the surrounding areas, including the Hammond House, a beautifully maintained Greek Revival home dating back to 1840. UCSHP isn't just about preserving buildings. They're about keeping history relevant. From cemetery restoration projects to historical walking tours, museum exhibits, and engaging community events, they work tirelessly to ensure the past remains a vibrant part of the present. And guess what? They need your help. Whether you're into research, restoration, event planning, or just love history, there is a way for you to get involved. Check them out on Facebook at facebook.com/UCSHP or reach out via email at UCSHPHammondHouse, that's HAMMOND house, @gmail.com. Want to visit? Stop by 210 Charlotte Street, Union City, Michigan, or call 269-251-0534 to learn more. Before we dive in, a quick shout out to everybody liking, sharing, and subscribing. You're the reason these incredible organizations get the recognition they deserve. If you love what we do, help us spread the word. We're on Podbean, YouTube, Rumble, and nearly every podcast platform. Wherever you listen, hit that like, subscribe, comment, or follow button. It really helps. And hey, if you have an organization in mind that you'd love us to feature, or if you want to be a guest, drop us a line at preservationoaks@gmail.com. Coming up on our next episode, we'll be chatting with Nick Bogert, Vice President of the Region of Three Oaks Museum in Three Oaks, Michigan. Their work preserving the stories of New Buffalo, Chickaming, and Three Oaks townships is truly inspiring. All right, let's get this episode rolling. And now a short biography of today's guest. Ms. Bobbie Watson Mathis is a dedicated educator, artist, historian, and preservationist with a deep passion for both art and local history. She's been a K-12 art specialist for nearly 3 decades, currently teaching at Lakeview School District, where she delights in fostering creativity through drawing, painting, ceramics, stained glass, photography, and printmaking. Since 2017, Bobbie has served as the president of the Union City Society for Historic Preservation, where she works tirelessly to protect and celebrate the region's rich heritage. A committed cemetery preservationist and genealogist, she spent years restoring and repairing headstones across Michigan and Ohio, ensuring that the stories of the past endure for future generations. Bobbie marvels at the fact that she gets to make a living doing what she loved as a child, playing with paint, clay, and crayons. All right? Welcome to the program, Bobbie.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here.
First, I'd like to congratulate you and your society on your 40th year anniversary this year. Great work. Do you have any special celebrations or events scheduled to celebrate?
Honestly, I hadn't even realized that it was 40 years, but now I think I'm going to have to definitely plan something super cool for our society and maybe really celebrate the fact that I can't believe it's been 40 years that's been around.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You guys have been rocking it for 40 years. That's excellent. That really shows community support,
It really does. We had a very vested group with Carolyn and Dale Rice, who ran the society for so many years. And then it was started by Dale and Dorothy Everett. So we have to be thankful for some people who had very, very deep love of history in our community.
Yeah. What's something unique about Union City that most people might not know?
I don't think a lot of people know that we were part of the Underground Railroad. I know in Michigan, there's, when you think of Underground Railroad, there's some towns that pop into, your head automatically with, Ann Arbor and Detroit. And I don't know if people knew about Cassopolis or Vandalia, but in Battle Creek and Marshall as well. But we were on the map. We were actually station number 2. Coldwater was supposed to be station number 1. And then we had actually an Underground Railroad abolitionist community. Union City was founded with a lot of Quakers. And so abolitionism came along with the roots from New York. We had a lot of New Englanders. And so I don't think a lot of people know about that we have a house in Union City that is tied to the Underground Railroad, a blacksmith that lived there by the name of John Zimmerman. And he was an abolitionist. He ran abolitionist newspapers, and he did have some fugitive slaves that did escape and were hidden in the house. And when the bounty hunters came after them to come bring them back to the South, he stood up to them. And I think that's lost on a lot of Union City. A lot of people just don't know that in the area. Like they don't even, think about it. And even a lot of people in our town didn't even know it.
Think about the courage that took to stand up against the bounty hunters.
Yeah. That Fugitive Slave Act.
Yeah.
They were coming back for their property. And it was, people like John that stood up and said, no, you're not. Even though he was a pacifist, he was ready to stand up and protect these people, and help them to get to freedom over, in Canada. So I just love that. I love lecturing about it. I love talking about it. And it's just so cool that we have that here.
Yeah, and I hope we learn more about Union City and the rich history there as we go through this episode. Are there any local legends or ghost stories that stand out?
We definitely have one. In fact, for the longest time, we have a legend called Dead Man's Hollow. And it had been a legend ever since I was a kid, and it just persisted and persisted. And nobody really thought about it. It was this area in our town, this kind of a gully, and there's a spooky ghost story associated with it. And after some digging and research, I found out the history behind that legend. And we do a walking history tour. We've done about 3 of them that tell the story of what happened here.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, we have definitely our local legends about that for sure.
Cool. Are you going to tell us more about that one?
Oh, I can talk hours about that one.
Oh,
so there was a murder in our town in 1914.
Yeah.
And it was quite sensational because the newspapers of the time didn't spare any detail about what happened. So it was a woman. Her name was Fanny Parks Lathrop. And she grew up in Union City, and she lived in Union City. She was Fanny Parks, and then she got married. And her husband kind of had a falling out and had a divorce. And so she was single again and on her own and had to get some money. So she went off to Grand Rapids to make a living as, kind of like just working in stores and things like that. And she met a man there, quite a younger man. She was 40. He was in his 20s. And he kind of was trying to woo her and convince her to be with him. And she kept saying, no, this isn't right. I'm much too old for you. I'm divorcee, and you're, this young man. And he wouldn't, he wasn't taking no for an answer. He was being really persistent. And so she decided she'd had it. And she also knew that her parents were ailing. And so she had to come back home and help. So she came back to Union City and she was there. And the man's name was Willard Blank. And he followed her here and took a train from Grand Rapids to get here, a stagecoach. It was some way he got here really fast overnight. And he got here in the middle of the night. And again, she's telling him, you can stay, but no, I'm not going to marry you. I don't want anything to do with you. And so he said, well, I'll leave, but I really don't feel well. I'll stay here tonight. Is that okay? And she said, well, yes, of course you can stay here. But you have to leave in the morning. I don't want to be with you. You have to leave. And so in the middle of the night, he yelled out for her because claimed he was sick and he wasn't feeling well. And so she came with medicine. And as she walked through the door, he had a straight razor and he proceeded to cut her throat. And so it's quite graphic tale. But anyway, she died and then he escaped and he ran off just as night closed. In fact, he was known as the nighty murderer. And for weeks they were looking for him around. They thought he'd run away as far as like another county. He'd been sightings of the guy running around, and the whole town was just aghast. Where is he? What happened to him? Our poor Fanny, what has happened to her? And so for 2 weeks, they had bloodhounds. People from Grand Rapids were coming around to look for him, obviously, and to track him down. And they finally found him 2 weeks later in Dead Man's Hollow. He had taken his own life. And so that became to be our legend, but we lost that. We never knew like what the story was behind that until I found, death records and census records, and just digging in the history, we finally had our answer.
Wow. That is a great story. Wow.
Yeah, it's phenomenal to read the details of it. It's really become a popular event in our town, and we take them from each place, the murder house, and then we take them to the house where they had the funeral, and then we take them to the cemetery, and then we finally end up back at the hollow where he was found.
I was going to ask, are they both buried in the local cemetery?
They are. And
Wow.
The sad part is that neither one of them, well, the saddest part is that she didn't have a marker, and he didn't have a marker either. He was buried in our Potter's Field.
Yeah.
And his family did not want to come here from Grand Rapids to claim his body. So they took the money that he had on him, which is roughly about, I don't know, $70 maybe, to bury him. And he's buried here without a stone. And she was buried here without a stone. And I made a point of the local funeral director, Tate Goodwin, donated money to get her a headstone. So she finally has a headstone here in Union City.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you guys did that.
Yeah. That's why I'm kind of doing this, is because she had a story and I felt like she slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, that says a lot about Union City.
Yeah. And our abolitionist John Zimmerman did not have a headstone either. And we worked to get him one also in the cemetery. So both of those unmarked graves are now marked due to the Historical Society.
Good for you guys. Boy, the city ought to be very proud of that.
Yes.
Are there any historical reenactments or living history events that take place in or around Union City?
Well, I know, the ones that we do cemetery tours every year. I'm looking forward to a new one this year. And then we do the Dead Man Hollow walking tour. We're doing another history tour in April. We'll talk about that maybe later. And let's see, what else have we done? There's been some reenactments here with our, Battery D for the Civil War reenactments. Yeah. They've come here to Union City and set up camp. So, we would like to do more of that here. We'd like to have some more, and we'd like to involve, high schoolers, young adults in some of this stuff. And they love it. We've had a couple, high schoolers join our entourage of actors, and they've really gotten into it.
Very cool. Well, plus a lot of young people were soldiers in the Civil War, from what I understand.
Yeah, very young. In fact, I've read some stories of like as young as 12 or 13,
Yeah.
trying to say that they're old enough, lying about their age and joining either, drummer boy or, in some form they wanted to be part of it. They had that
Yeah.
passion to defend your nation,
Very cool. What compelling narratives from Branch County's history encapsulate its spirit and heritage?
Well, Branch County has a lot of Native American history. We have the Sauk River Trail, in Coldwater. There's a lot of Potawatomi camps, around in the area. That's kind of more in Calhoun. Branch County also had a lot of New England pioneers. I think it's that branch of people from New York, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. We have so many of those pioneers here, and they carried that tradition into Branch County. Hardworking farmers. We have so many farmers and capitalists and people that wanted to improve, the land here and build on it and, building from scratch. It's this resilience that these people have. And I think that's so many stories as I look through, Branch County histories, Union City histories, just people that wanted to make a go of it and make a better life.
Yeah, imagine that. Picking up, I try to put myself in their shoes. They're not going like today. I could move from here in Salt Lake City, where I am, to like Chicago or something, right? Or some other town. They would still have grocery stores and all of that infrastructure. But back then, they went from something, I would say, fairly civilized on the East Coast to a forest primarily, and they had to make a living. Just amazing.
Yeah, and then they had to start a foundry, a sawmill, grist mills, and then the closest post office you'd have to take the mail by mule or horseback just to get your mail from one. We're not very far from Hodunk, and that even is like maybe from Union City to Hodunk is maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 miles, something like that.
Yeah.
And that took like all day and all night to get there.
Wow. What a time. Does that tell you in your reading and your education about the past, does that tell you that most of the pioneers had to have money and had to have a plan as they went west?
Absolutely. You had to have someone come here first, more than likely. Usually it was either someone scouted it out and found out what was here, the resources that were here. Union City luckily had, the convergence of two rivers. We had the Coldwater River and, the St. Joe River. And that was something, that's where we got the term Union City, because Union City wasn't always Union City. It was Goodwinsville.
Oh.
And so before that, in the 1830s, it was Goodwinsville, and we didn't change to Union City until 1866.
Okay.
So that was a big thing for us, was the river. We were going to found everything, based on that river. Without the river, we wouldn't, they wouldn't have come here. And we even had a group of men, they were pioneers, the first settlers of town. Hammond was one of them, which is what the Hammond House is named for. Chester Hammond, Ezra Bostwick, these Clark, all these names that come about, and they founded, a group of investors. They wanted to invest in things. And so the first thing they invested in was the river. And we even built a boat called the Pilot. And it was to traverse up and down the St. Joe River.
Wow.
And it would take, you could go all the way from Union City, and it was supposedly, they wanted to go all the way, if you follow the St. Joe, towards Niles and Mishawaka, down into Mishawaka. It goes into Indiana. It goes quite far down into there. Well, the boat got as far, it's a steamboat, and it got as far as Mishawaka, and it crashed into a bridge.
Oh.
And it sank, and the investors lost their money. But the really cool part of that story is that I found it, and I found the record of it crashing. The St. Joe pilot, he went down with the ship trying to rescue one of the boys that was on board. And so there's another small story that when I started digging, our deep historians here knew about it, but for the most part, nobody knew that we had this, this pilot, this steamboat that went up and down the St. Joseph River.
Yeah. Because back in those days, when Union City was founded, or what did you say, Goodwinville?
It was called Goodwinsville after Justice Goodwin.
Okay. But
yeah,
when
he
it
was
was
from
founded,
New York. Yeah.
There wasn't a railroad yet.
Not yet, no.
And it's not like you could, travel there very quickly and then pick up your cell phone and call your uncle and say, boy, it's great here. You ought to really come on down. We could start a sawmill. Somebody had to come, spend weeks maybe coming to the area and reconnoitering, and then had to go back home and tell all the kinfolk, here's what's going on.
Absolutely. And they saw the opportunities here, and they saw the resources. Besides the river, we had iron ore here. And so we were the first to have a foundry that was using pig iron.
Mm.
And the iron that we found, that was Thomas Mosley. He brought men from, immigrants from Scotland and Wales, and these Welshmen that are being, molders in the iron foundry. They poured some of the first iron that was used in a lot of stoves, and a lot of the iron work in like pillars in Detroit buildings, buildings in Detroit. It's just crazy. They found, those pillars, and they've looked at it, and it's stamped Union City, Michigan on it.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Wow.
And that we had a Peerless Portland cement company here. That started in the 1890s. It was one of the biggest cement companies, in the area, in the state. And we were employing thousands of men in this cement factory. And it was here until the 20s. And the cement that we made, some of that cement went into the first roads that were in Woodward Avenue in Detroit. So like we had far reaching, effects from our industry, even on how we, rippled out into what we could give.
Yeah, very cool. So beyond the steamboats, the early days of the steamboats,
Mm-hmm.
and then the railroad, what other landmark events do you believe have had the most impact on Union City's history?
So besides the railroad and the river, we've had some factories here that have had pretty impacting effects. We've had Dual Coach. Dual Coach was, where they made travel trailers, and a lot of people were employed through that industry.
Oh.
That was, I think one of those travel trailers was in the longest trailer with Desi and Lucy Arnaz. And so besides that, we've always had, we've had factories here. Mostly it's been agricultural, and Potawatomi camps aren't far from where we're at. We're really close to Athens, which has, reservation there. Yeah.
Does the society have any relationship with native tribes in the area?
We have, descendants in our town, but we don't have any, like, per se, as far as like anything that we would preserve here. We did have it was a Native American pointing tree.
Yeah.
And we really did try to save that one. What that is it's, their markers where the natives would bend the branches, and it would tell you either where water or the camp, or it would be like a way mark.
Sort of like their road signs, kind of pointing road signs.
Yeah, so it was famous. It was the Indian pointing tree. That's what it was called. And it was around, it made Ripley's Believe It or Not. There was a cartoon with that. Like, would you believe that there's an Indian pointing tree? And it stood there for years. It was on farmland. It was right as you go on M60, as you're going towards, if you're coming from Union City towards Burlington, as you're going more easterly, it was right there. It stood for just years. So many people had their portraits taken next to it. And it was, some legends surrounding that, like what was it used for? So many people had theories about it.
So you've got pictures, photographs of it, and what it looked like.
Yeah, we know what it looked like. It was
cool.
amazing. And then it just started, you could tell, trees are not going to last forever.
Right.
And so they noticed it was starting to be in danger of collapsing or rotting out. So a group of people got it they poured, like put bricks in it and cement inside of it to just try to keep it, up and right. And finally, I think it was in, gosh, can't remember what year it was, but a big, strong storm took it down.
Mm.
And oh my gosh, it was like the death of a beloved community member. It was like we lost our pointing tree.
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing I can think of per se that I know they tried working hard to preserve that landmark.
Well, I love the name of your society. It's the Society for Historic Preservation, and you're doing some incredible work. How do the unique traits of your region present both difficulties and potentials for preserving its heritage?
Well, the times change. And so modern developments, I know that, we've got solar farms that are coming around the area.
Yeah.
They want to tear things down and build things up. And we had a hard time when the modern development, like when they wanted to take the highway. We used to have a highway that went through our town. And it finally gave us, people had to come right through. It was the way M60 used to go through Union City. And they rerouted it and took the highway outside of the town. And so it kind of like stole some of that opportunity for growth, away from us. So I feel like we struck out a couple of times, like we were betting, like our pioneers bet on the river, right? This is our future. It's the river. Well, and then what comes along? Can't do that anymore. We've got to do the railroad. Okay, so we're betting on the railroad now. We had the Airline Railroad, the Michigan Central Railroad that went from, Niles and to Jackson and Detroit. And then that kind of like, they went away from our railroad line. And then you had the highways. Okay, well, now we'll bet on the highway. At least we've got a highway going through Union City.
Right.
And then, nope, we're going to take a highway and we're going to build around it. And we're going to take the highway right out of Union City. So if you didn't make a point of stopping in Union City, you wouldn't have to. You could just keep going on M60. You might see a gas station or two, but if you don't turn off the highway, you don't get to see, Union City and what's here.
Right. Yeah, that's a shame. That's really
so
a shame.
I feel like, it's good in a way because we haven't had to deal with a lot of big development like in Marshall. They have a lot of historical sites and they're trying to preserve things, but industry comes in, like Ford has this plant coming in, the big battery plant, and we don't have to deal with so much of that as people wanting to come here and take our land and like build a bunch of stuff on it.
Right.
One landmark that we fought really didn't want to see go down. Actually, there's two. We had a beautiful old high school. And it was the most gorgeous building, and it was built in the 90s, this beautiful building, 1870s actually. And 3 stories, marble staircases, just gorgeous architecture. And it lasted for quite a while, went through some configurations. It became, they remodeled a little bit. They took the top floor off, and then they kind of made it into a junior high. So they're still using it. And then, keeping up maintenance of it, it started to deteriorate. It was parts of the staff couldn't even go into it because it was, too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So they looked around and they said, well, should we put the money into saving this, or should we just build a new high school? So the votes came in and they decided, we're going to raise the high school. We're going to build a new high school. This is in the 1950s or 50s, I think. And everybody was just, no, there was the camp that no, they didn't want to see the high school go and they wanted to save it. And yes, we should do it. It's not safe. And they went in with a wrecking ball. They came in with a wrecking ball and they tried knocking that high school down. They had to get a special wrecking ball. That high school was so sturdy, they couldn't knock it down. And so they kept trying. Finally, they did. And, luckily they had saved some of the bricks from the high school. And that's what we are using. We've used some of the bricks from that high school. And right next to the Historical Society, we have what's called the bell tower.
Yeah.
And we took the bell, the school bell. This is, by the way, Howard Streeter and other members of the Historical Society built a little bell tower with a display window. And that bell is in different classes, raised money to fund the saving of the bell tower. And so we have the bell. We have a little building that houses the bell made from the bricks. And so we kind of saved a little bit of the high school. It's still there. And then the other building we didn't want to see go down was in our town, we have it's a 4-way stop. And on each corner of this 4-way stop, there's 4 buildings that were significant to the founding of the town. We have our Farmers Bank block, and we have a Mason's Bank block, and then a Watkin Maxon Dome block, and the other new bank block. So this one building had a beautiful dome on it, and it was the heart of Union City. So many drugstores, so many historical businesses were there. And again, with time, hard to save these buildings. If you don't start taking care of them early, it's almost like a race against time. You're losing every time you don't spend any time putting money back into the building. It's, one step further into the grave. And so in the 90s, they decided they were looking towards maybe renovating the building. We had a guy who had a grocery store here. It was Harding's grocery store, and he wanted to save it, and he was going to invest in it and have a new grocery store, make basically this really beautiful new marketplace for Union City using this historic site. And unfortunately, he died before this could come to fruition. And so the building ended up having to be sold, and part of our community was fighting to save it. And the other part was, we just have to go ahead. We're going to sell this site. So it ended up, we lost the building. And Historical, Society didn't have enough money to raise the funds to save it, unfortunately. And so they knocked the whole building down. But again, they did save a lot of the bricks from it. And then a place from like a reclaimed place came and got the dome, and they took it away, and we never saw the dome. And then our Marty Chard, our member of the Historical Society, got with somebody and located the dome. This is like years later, like 10 years later, 20 years later. They get this dome back. And so we get the dome back, and we built a little landmark gazebo using the dome as the topper of it. And then the building's posts are made out of the bricks. And then there's a little brick monument on the inside of it that tells the history of, the 4 corners. And so we're trying what we can in creative ways to save what we can, at least so we're not losing all of the history, when these sites are becoming harder and harder and harder to keep, upkeep with.
Absolutely. Costs money.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe your relationship with local government officials? I imagine that since you're the Historic Preservation Society, that you're on some boards or committees, for the county or the town.
I'm not part of any board members. The village is very, very supportive of it. I do go to township meetings because the cemetery is not run by the village. It's run by the township. So I do attend a lot of township board meetings, and they are very, very, very pro anything I want to do to preserve the cemetery. They are very good about working with me, and I give them suggestions, and then we give each other suggestions. And they were excited and happy to see that I wanted to work in the cemetery to keep, that part of it preserved. But whenever something comes up and we need like approval, the current president of the village is Jim Hurley, and he's been very, very, very supportive of a lot of the things that we do. And so I have no problems. We get along very well with the village board. They've been very good about agreeing to what we need and not ever being hindrance or roadblocks to anything like that. We worked with them when they had 100 years. Our dam just turned, Union City Dam The Riley Dam turned 100 years old just last year, and there was a big celebration between the town and the Historical Society to have a big special event for our dam, and there were tours of the dam. And so it was very cool to see that, relationship between the village and the township and our Historical Society.
How do you, or how does your society educate citizens of the area about balancing preserving historical sites with modern development needs in Union City? Do you have to become sort of an expert in preservation and those kind of methodologies?
Well, I know for one thing, I can speak on behalf of like the cemetery. Yes, you do. You have to do your homework. You have to know what you're doing. In the society that I'm part of, where I learned gravestone preservation, their motto was do no harm. So I had to learn everything, the ins and outs of what materials to use, what methods and techniques to use, so that I wasn't coming into the cemetery causing any more irreparable damage. I wanted to show them that I did my homework. I've done workshops all over the country to study. So I know what I'm talking about when I at least when I'm doing cemetery preservations. And we do that. If we're going to work on the house, we're going to go to somebody, who knows what they're doing with historical, materials and things. We're trying, when we build something on the society, to keep in mind what was used back in the day, and try, if you go to our museum, there's nothing like super uber, we're trying to stay with what Chester Hammond would have wanted, so I think we keep that in mind, and we try to, not lecture, but to educate our community members about why it's important, and to do your homework. You need to know what you're talking about. So when you come to them, they can see the importance, and they can see the, what's needed, what funding is needed to help.
Yeah. I love the fact that you're very familiar with the fact that your town has something called Four Corners that was very important and integral to the town and deserves to be preserved in some way, right?
Oh yeah, and I'm not even the most historical. There's a couple. There's people in town that I learned from. Ron and Marty Chard have just been a boon. Ron Chard has a site that's just wonderful, and there's so many people that love this town and that want to preserve the history. And, Dale and Carolyn Rice have been wonderful, and Mary Breckheisen. There's all these people, just, you can tell the community spirit and, how they want. And Paula DeJong, she's on our board, and she's a part of on our society. And she lives in the blacksmith's shop. And she has a yoga studio there. And so she has been really good about keeping those historical buildings someplace the public can still come and see, and it's been preserved. And before that, it was Jim Fisher and his crew. So I'm giving a lot of shout outs here, because there's a lot of people in this community that just love it and want to see it, see it go on with their grandchildren and children's children, and just for generations.
I'm glad you're doing that, because it really does take a village, right?
It absolutely does. I can't see any more special place than Union City where they work to do that.
Ms. Bobbie, I think we should take a break for a few minutes. What do you think?
All right. Well, we'll see you back here after the break.
Listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages about how you can support the Union City Society for Historic Preservation with your generous donations.
Union City, Michigan. A town with a story to tell, a past worth preserving. But history doesn't preserve itself. It takes dedication, passion, and support from people like you. For 40 years, the Union City Society for Historic Preservation has been working tirelessly to safeguard the treasures of the past. From restoring the beautiful Hammond House to preserving Union City's historic cemeteries, this dedicated nonprofit is keeping history alive, one project at a time. But they can't do it alone. They need your help. Your donation, big or small, helps repair aging headstones, maintain historic landmarks, and fund critical preservation projects, workshops, events, and education that keep the town's rich heritage from fading away.
If you'd like to visit us, you can check out at Union City Society for Historic Preservation's Facebook page to learn more. Or you can send a tax-deductible donation today to 210 Charlotte Street, Union City, Michigan, 49094. Do you have any questions? Well, you can call us at 269-251-0534, or you can email us at ucshphammondhouse@gmail.com. Don't let Union City's history disappear. Be a part of the legacy. Please donate today.
And now, here's a little nugget for you. Discover the stories of yesterday. Yesterday's news is today's entertainment. Come to your local historical society or museum and discover the scandalous stories of yesteryear. Spoiler, they involve a lot of drama and questionable choices.
I am General Matto Vandu Maximanus, from the planet you refer to as BD 114672C. I am the legate of the 2nd AB Picturis B region, governor of the approaches to NU Octantis AB, interplanetary consul, commander of the legions of AB Picturis A, 91 Aquari B, Mu Leonis B, and Gamma Librae B, and I listen to Preservation Oaks on Microstream Radio.
9 out of 10 genealogists agree. Preservation Oaks is the best podcast on the internet.
Hello, boys and girls. It's me, the Frito Bandido. You know what I heard about you? I heard you want to be a Frito Bandido like me. You do? Then you must sing the Bandido song. Let's sing together. You just follow the bouncing Fritos corn chips bag. Ay, 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 ay. I am the Frito Bandido. Yay! I like Fritos corn chips. I love them, I do. I want Fritos corn chips. I'll get them from you. Ay, 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 ay. Oh, I am the Frito Bandido. Give me Fritos corn chips and I'll be your friend. The Frito Bandido, you must not offend. Now, boys and girls, you are Frito Bandidos too. You sing the Frito Bandido song, and you loco for crunchy Fritos corn chips. That's nice. Munch, munch, munch a bunch of Fritos corn chips. Munch, munch, munch a bunch of Fritos corn chips.
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, Sean Radcliffe, and we're here today with Ms. Bobbie Mathis from the Union City Society for Historic Preservation, located in Union City, Michigan. Let's pick up where we left off, and welcome back.
It's good to be back, and I'm so happy to be on the show, and I want to get into Union City history.
Your society has a lot of historical information, and you've got a historic Hammond House there as part of your society, and
Yes.
people tour that. What lesser known narratives about your town does your organization emphasize in its work and in its exhibits in the Hammond House?
So inside the Hammond House, we have so many things. Lesser known narratives would be that we have quite a few Mason exhibit, like with a lot of things that the Masons have given us, Masonic societies, because a lot of them are closing up. Sadly, there's membership dwindling in, some of these Masonic societies. And so quite a few of them have had to kind of scale down. And so we have had to take some of their things and house them. And we love having them because a lot of Masonic members, we had a lot of men and, with a big Masonic society here. And so we have saved quite a bit of the furniture, the records. We've got one of the oldest record books from the Masonic Society. And that's quite a draw. I know there was just an exhibit at the Kalamazoo Art Institute of Masonic societies and the work surrounding the Order of the Eastern Star. So we have that. We have a lot of things of Civil War veterans, soldiers. We've got so many very cool stories about through each decade of war. Civil War, we had the camp, the GAR groups. Besserell, we have a Revolutionary War veteran in our cemetery.
Oh, cool. We've
had a lot of businesses in our back end of our town that have come and gone. I would say probably I think the involvement of why we're saving it, with the Underground Railroad, like I said, trying to just save what we can as our town has gone through all these different developmental stages and working with, women's groups. What fascinating women we've had in our town. I just ran across a story, every time if I'm researching this book for the cemetery, I'm finding these amazing stories. People don't know, for example, that we have the first female Caucasian that was ever born in Hawaii.
Oh.
Her parents were missionaries in Hawaii. And of course, back then it was called the Sandwich Islands. And she was born in Hawaii. And she was, one of the first females born of, Caucasian background. So she's buried in our cemetery. I just think all these stories are captivating. We've got a wonderful author who lives in our town, Patricia Polacco. She's a children's author. We've had educators, doctors. We've had so many wonderful people, alumni come through our town. And then they always seem to come back. It's all the small town nostalgia and love that they had. They can go on to bigger and better, right? But Union City always seems to call them back home. So I think that's a part of it, is the narrative that Union City's just, it's a small town with a big heart, I think.
Yeah, you've got such a rich fabric of history and courageous people, hardworking people that you would never know. What gets me about societies such as yours is that you would never know these wonderful stories unless you learned about your society and visited the Hammond House.
Exactly. And so many people are giving us, very important artifacts. We have a painter, J.P. Palmer. He's not with us anymore. He died in 1945, but he had a love of the St. Joe River. And he was kind of our little Monet of Union City. He went on to study at the Art Institute of Chicago. He's done, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of paintings. And they went back in his day, he'd paint them and then he would go uptown and he would maybe sell them for like $1.
Mm.
And so he was quite prolific. He was a watercolorist, very well. Being an art teacher, I can see the quality, and he's got a lot of skill. They're very well done. and these seem to capture the spirit of the St. Joe. And so now that they're out there in the world, I mean, they've gone as far as like Alaska, they're in Europe. There are a couple of people in Europe have them. And so these paintings have gone far away, but they're finding our way back to us, and people are now collecting them because they've captured a whole beauty of Union City. So we have about 81 of his paintings in our museum that people should come and see.
Oh yeah, that's way cool. Wow.
It's very, very, in fact, his descendants learned about our society. I mean, these are people that have gone as far as Martha's Vineyard, and they're coming back to Union City because, their great-great-grandfather, was a big deal here. And the really cool thing is we have a portrait of him, and just recently his great-grandson came to the museum, spitting image of this man.
Oh.
It's so cool. And he has this picture right next to JP's picture, and he shaved his beard, and if he hadn't shaved his beard, they would have looked exactly the same.
Oh, B, that's pretty cool. Now, what is the history of the Hammond House?
So it wasn't always a museum. It was the Chester and Fanny residence. So they came here from Smyrna, New York in 1836, and he built the house in 1837. In fact, it's probably one of not the earliest home ever built, but one of the earlier ones, being 1836. That still would have been Goodwinsville at the time. He was a prominent settler here, and he was one of those pioneers that I talked about that was a backer of a lot of projects and things. He had a daughter named Ellen, and Ellen Hammond was our first school teacher here. And so there's 2 streets in Union City named after her, Ellen Street and Hammond Street. But then in about 1986, a bunch of people got together, and I'm talking about Dave and Dorothy Everett. Dorothy was a librarian at the high school, and she was probably one of the main movers of why this society even exists today.
Oh, cool.
So she decided in 86, they got the funds together to buy this house. They saw the house was given to them, and they had just enough money to pay down on it, not totally given. And so in 86, they got together and they decided to revamp it because it was pretty run down. It's a Greek revival house, and they restored it. And so they've tried to keep it exactly how it was with a few advancements. We still have an old kitchen. We've got a servant stairway that goes down the back. It's a couple bedrooms, 1 bathroom. But so after a while, they decided to make this our headquarters of where we're at. And so it's great because their daughter, Mary Breckheisen, is still doing events with us, and we're happy to keep, their spirit alive, and glad that we got this house. And we've got Marty Burdick, who's done an amazing job. He's been working so hard upstairs, renovating rooms, and we were hoping to add new exhibits to these spaces. Paula DeJong has done a bunch of work. Just our community of our board has just been so supportive of really recognizing to keep the house upkept and what it involves in running an old house and keeping it, the roof, we're replacing our roof, and we're looking at, that's not cheap things, and keeping the house insured. And so it's a pretty cool place to come and see. We've got so many exhibits. Like I said, we've got Masonic exhibit right now. We've got a lot of school exhibits in there. It's a Victorian looking attitude for the house, and so many cool paintings, so many cool photographs, quilts. Just there's so many things there to see.
Oh,
We've even got a meteor there.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, that was given to us by a farmer. And I have to admit, now there's 2 stories that are going around with Union City about a meteor.
Okay.
One is the little meteor that's at our house. It's not very big. It's maybe a foot long. I would love to get it taken and tested somewhere, but it looks really like I'm pretty sure the farmers that gave it swear that it is a meteor, and it does look like one. And then there's the other meteor that's in our cemetery that Patricia Polacco wrote a book about. And so the cemetery, that is the Goff family headstone. It's basically this rock that came down into the Goff family farm, and that's what she wrote her book about. So it's a really cool, and people come from all over the place to see this meteor.
And it really looks like, it came from space, right?
Well, the one at the museum does. The
Yeah.
one in the cemetery looks an awful lot like a pudding stone, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to debunk that one. Yep, we can say that it's a meteor for sure, right?
Yeah.
There's a book written about it.
Oh, very cool.
But it is very cool.
I know that you said you're really into cemeteries and you're really into helping people with cemeteries. I was reading a little bit about your work and how you've traveled all over the United States to help restore headstones or gravestones and cemetery work. And the coolest thing I think about what you're doing is, number one, you learned how to do it professionally, and number two, you're passing on your knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. And I think everybody that comes to my workshops walk away. I'm not trying to make profit. Obviously, I'm not making a living off this. It's something that I feel is important enough and warranted enough. There's so many cemeteries that are abandoned and so many that are in need of preservation. I just want to make sure when people come to my workshop that they're getting good information that is going to be of that philosophy of that do no harm, right? That's our first and foremost. And also permissions. Get your permissions and know your materials so that you're not going out there with, the wrong stuff that's going to ruin the headstone in the long run.
Yeah.
There's so many people that don't realize there is a proper way to do this and make the headstone exist for, hundreds and hundreds of more years.
You can't just grab a wire brush and some dish soap and run out there and squirt it and go nuts.
No, and the coolest thing is I think there's a movement in the United States right now of this preservation. Jonathan Appel from Atlas Preservation, he is out there doing a 48 state tour right now. And he is like the person that, has been passing his knowledge down. And so I learned from somebody that knew him. And so it comes kind of full circle around that now I'm going back to his workshops, and it just seems to be that they're all over. You can see him on TikToks. You can see him on YouTube. There's people that are learning this in really good information that's out there. There's some bad information out there, and that's what we want to make sure is that people get the good information on how to do cemetery preservation, because there's a lot of bad information. Yeah, like don't use bleach on a headstone. Right. Don't run out with a wire brush. Don't use a power washer. Don't put chalk on it if you're trying to read it. Don't put flour on it if you're trying to, if you can't see the details of it. There's better ways to get the information off a headstone than what's been out there for, generations. People just don't know any better. They think they're doing, something. They're going out there with good intentions, but maybe not good information.
Now, you give workshops on a regular basis. Can anyone in the nation join your workshop?
Oh, yeah. If they're willing to drive to, wherever we're having it. Usually I have them here in Michigan because that's where I can get my permission. Union City, I've had, maybe 6 or 7 of them here now. I've done workshops in Sherwood. I've done workshops in Litchfield. I'm willing to travel wherever to do a workshop, just as long as, the entity in charge of the cemetery, it has, the permissions to do so. And then I bring the materials and supplies with me. A lot of people it's really kind of neat to see the range of people that come to these workshops, whether they just want to learn to clean, right? That's as far as they want to go. They just want to clean.
Yeah.
So we'll teach them about cleaning. And then we get into some really more complicated fixes and techniques. And there's people that are, wanting to learn how to do that. And so in younger kids, I love seeing, parents show up with their kids. That's how I got my love of cemeteries. My mom taking me, when I was a small child. This is your grandparents, because I didn't know them. They were gone before I was born. And so that's how I met my grandparents. I saw their headstone. I didn't know them. And so that, I think, started this passion for genealogy in me too, and the headstone stuff.
And speaking of genealogy, you've done a YouTube video and you've probably done lectures on the meaning of the symbology on the headstones.
Yes, Andrew, my student, Andrew Nolan, I taught him because COVID was going around. And so he was signed up to go to my workshop, but COVID happened. And then he was really bummed out. And I said, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, I can't have it. And then I saw he really, really, really wanted to learn. So I said, okay, come to Union City. I will show you. And it's like one of the best friendships I've ever developed doing this stuff. He's amazing. He started his own business. And so together we make a pretty good team of, knowing between our tombstone preservation skills and restoration and me knowing a little bit about the symbology. We kind of tell stories about, stones that he's fixed, stones that I've fixed. And it's such a good pairing and such good information. That was a highlight for me.
You have any cemeteries in the area that you've restored that are primarily soldiers?
I can't say that the whole cemetery's been soldiers, but I do have quite a few in Union City where they're grouped together. There's a veterans part of it. And so kind of fund it, I started Adopt a Veteran, because there's so many of these, especially Civil War soldiers, because theirs are all mostly marble, right? So if you were a Civil War soldier, you got a marker, and it was going to be marble. You only had like one choice of it being marble. And then they don't last super long. They're not going to last forever. And they get a lot of growth on them. So I saw a lot of them were tilting and leaning. And a lot of people don't know that, what you see of a Civil War headstone. If you don't know what a Civil War headstone looks like, it's like a white, kind of like a little white tablet with a rounded top.
Yep.
Well, if you were from the North, it was rounded. But if you were from the South, it was pointed. And so if you were a rebel in the South, your little tombstone would have a point on it. And if it was rounded, you were from the North. And so, yeah. And so these tombstones that were installed, you only see maybe a foot of it, maybe 2 feet of it above ground. It goes down these tombstones are like 4 feet long.
Whoa.
And so they have a deep, deep, kind of like I'd say a bigger part of it in the ground than it is above the ground. And so when you have to fix one and you think, oh, I'm just gonna, if you have permission, it's your ancestor or whatever. By the way, if it's your ancestor, you can go in and clean it and fix it if it's your ancestor, right? So you wouldn't have to ask permissions to go clean an ancestor's headstone. It's your family's property. But so with permissions, you can go in and you can fix these. So if you're going to try to move these Civil War headstones and you go to move it, you're not going to be able to move it because it's so far underneath the ground on the bottom. You have to have like a tripod or something, and our veterans, our Civil War reenactors came up with a really ingenious way to clamp onto this headstone without hurting it and kind of like digging around it. And then you can extract it kind of like a tooth up out of the ground. And it's really heavy. And when I do this tripod work, I'm usually working with a partner because I don't want, the safety in numbers.
Yeah.
And so anything could happen. The tripod, could tip or whatever if you're not anchoring it properly and getting your physics figured out. And so you can pull it right out and then you can reset it. So for a fee, for our organization, I came up with Adopt a Veteran. So for like a $40 fee, you could adopt a veteran that's in the cemetery. If it's your ancestor, obviously that would be first dibs if it's your ancestor. So we'll reset it, we'll clean it, reset it, and then do a biography on the soldier and give him a complete write-up to that person. and then give them a little, social media shout out for helping the preservation. And so that not only gets, the funding to keep this preservation going, but recognizes the soldier's history and then the person who also gave to do that. So it's kind of like good all the way around because it's preserving history and it's also funding, our historical society.
There's so many wonderful cemeteries around. I was down in Atlanta, Georgia one time for business. This was in the 90s, I believe. And outside of Atlanta, Georgia, there's a place called Stone Mountain where they've done this huge, it's like Mount Rushmore, but it's that big, and it's like Robert E. Lee, and I don't know, he's on a horse and stuff. And the marble from that place went to build the Lincoln Memorial. And going there weren't exactly great road signs, and it's out in the country. And we went around this curve, and all of a sudden there was a Confederate soldier graveyard.
Wow.
And it was kind of overgrown, and it was just Confederate soldiers who had died and in the war and were buried there. And I thought it was the most marvelous thing.
Do you know why they're pointed?
No.
So at least this is what I've been told, is that they're pointed because they didn't want any of the, like if you were to set on it, like if you set on a Northerners, you're not supposed to set on headstones, but they didn't want any to be setting on their headstones, so they made them pointed so that any Northerner couldn't come down there and sit on their headstone. And so that was part of like the whole,
amazing.
Stay off my headstone or whatever. So, but that's one reason I've heard that they have the points on them. And then it does make it easier to recognize. But so many, like you're saying, of those cemeteries are so overgrown.
Yeah.
And I've had these are the types of cemeteries that need the most help. Bigger cities may have a little bit. So when you say perpetual care, right? So when you're what's called perpetual care is, you're going to, with the intention that you're going to have this tombstone taken care of for as long as the cemetery exists, right? And I think people have the misunderstanding of what that perpetual care, if you are paying a fee for it for the cemetery, what that gets you. And really all it means is that, they're mowing it, they're weed whacking around it, they're going to pick up limbs if any limbs have fallen down, but that doesn't mean that they have to clean it or fix it. So I think a lot of people, do go visit their ancestors' graves, and they do clean them, and they do, but they don't have that knowledge of like, oh my gosh, if it's broken, how do you do it correctly?
Or if it's been vandalized, right?
Absolutely. In fact, that's what got me started. That's what got me started in Union City. We had a case of vandalism here in 2017.
Oh.
And that's, they went around, it was sickening. They took all the flags off the grave because it was near Memorial Day. And somebody came through and they took all the flags off and they broke them all in half and they threw them in a pile.
Mm.
So that was the first thing that was just made me sick. And then because I used to jog through the cemetery all the time where I live in Union City at Riverside. And as I'm jogging, I know the path really well. And I'm getting to know like all the tombstones, like they're like old friends, right? So when I'm running through and I see, that one was knocked over. That wasn't like that before. Well, okay, that was weird. So then I'm going down one lane and it's one tombstone after another. Knocked down, moved, snapped in half. So then I knew for sure. And potted plants broken on the gravestone. So that's what really got me into, wanting to learn, well, can you fix them? Are you allowed to fix them? How do you fix them? So
yeah.
I'm so glad I got into it because I love it.
I'm glad you got into it too. You're doing some fantastic work from what I read.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for this great organization. The website is www.facebook.com/UCSHP. Their email is UCSHP Hammond House, that's HAMMOND house at gmail.com. Their address is 210 Charlotte Street, Union City, Michigan 49094. Their phone number is 269-251-0534. And you can visit the Hammond House by appointment only at this time, so call ahead and schedule your visit. That all sound right?
That sounds 100% correct.
Okay, glad I got that right. In what ways does your organization engage with the community, and what are its main objectives along with the spectrum of its membership?
So if you are become a member, which we have many older folks that are members, looking for some younger members, we give a newsletter. So if you subscribe, you get a newsletter. It's a quarterly newsletter. You'll get news. You can get it digitally. You can get it emailed to you. You can get it through the mail. What's going on, what our events are. We highly want volunteers. Like, we want people to come out and see the things that we're doing and become part of, the stories that we're telling. We want to hear stories, older community members. I want to go and make sure, I would love to go interview some of these older members to get their history recorded so that we have some place, we could store this. And so we encourage people to come and visit, obviously, come to our events and join and become a member so that, they can come up with ideas too. We're so flexible about getting new ideas out there, trying new things. And so we just want to tell, the story of the town and make sure that, as many people as we can are learning from it and are loving it. And yeah, I just think that, that's what we're going for.
Are you a seasonal museum, Hammond House, where you close for the winter and then you reopen, when the weather gets warmer?
We're open anytime anybody wants to come. So That's the only bad part is you have to call us because sadly no one lives there. It's just, we have all of our members, don't live very far away. So if they call somebody, I'm a teacher, so I'm not available during, the school year during the weekdays, right. But there's like several members that will come and give tours. And so come rain or shine, we're going to be open. If you call, we'll be there. We'll meet you.
Fantastic. Now, are there any upcoming 2025 events or exhibitions you think the community will find particularly engaging?
Yeah, so I've got a few. What I want to point out in particular is our walking tour we're going to have on April 27th. Okay. So what that is, it's a history tour of the town, and we walk around, and tour guide it's going to be about a 2-hour tour. And it goes around certain areas in the town that are of iconic areas, 10 sites that are iconic. And we give the history of it. And if you can't walk, you can take your golf cart. So we have golf carts there, So if you're not very mobile, you can ask to be valeted from site to site. Our town is pretty cool about a golf cart ordinance. You can bring and ride your golf carts around town.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah. And we're going to have 2 tours that day on April 27th at 1 p.m. And we're meeting at the Hammond House. Or if that's too early, you can come at 4 p.m. And then we're offering refreshments and a tour of the museum when the tours are over. If it rains on the 27th, we're going to have it on May 4th. So hopefully one of those days, April showers, we'll get a break there somewhere. Cool. So I usually have on Saturdays, but Saturdays are so busy for people. So we thought maybe Sunday we would catch more people. And, if it's very popular, we could have it again, later, and maybe on a different day in the summer. So we're kind of gauging. This is our first year of doing this type of walking tour. So it's kind of going all over the place. But then another couple of things that are coming up is on April 1st, I'm going to be speaking at the Marshall Rotary in Marshall, Michigan. And that's going to be at noon to 1. And then I'm going to be on April 22nd at the Calhoun County Genealogical Society. That's at 7 p.m. And that's in Marshall as well. And then on the 24th, I'm going to be at the Colon Library talking about cemetery preservation and symbolism at 5:30. And then later on in the year, in September, I'm going to be doing a cemetery tour again. And then we are also looking at a very new upcoming exhibit that we're trying to get funding for and trying to build is we just acquired a doctor's buggy, and we want to build a buggy house for this buggy and keep it right next to our museum because this buggy was made in Union City. And so it's returned to Union City, and we would like to celebrate that hopefully later in the year when we get the ball rolling for funding to help with building this little structure to house this wonderful, it's a doctor's buggy. It's so cute. If you go to our Facebook page and look at it, it's like so beautiful. I've never seen a buggy in better condition than this buggy.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody took care of it, huh?
Oh, the person that had it, it's like almost the day it went out of the shop. It's beautiful. The leather, everything on it. It's like, yeah, who knew that Union City used to make, all these buggies, and there's still one around from like this is like 1890s buggy. It's crazy.
Wow. That is way cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've got a few of those events coming up. If they go to our Facebook page, we're pretty good about posting all of our events. We have a Christmas tea every year. We're looking to do a new one this year around Halloween. We're going to do a paranormal investigator is going to come to the Hammond House and see if we have any spirits around in our building.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
That's going to be great. I know you mentioned April 1st. You're going to be at the Marshall Rotary in April 22nd in Calhoun and April 24th in Colon.
Yep.
Am I pronouncing that right? Colon?
Yeah, it's Colon.
Okay.
It's the magic capital of the world or something like that. But yeah, Colon's a cool little town.
How do people schedule themselves to attend one of these events?
I think for the Marshall Rotary and the Calhoun County Genealogical Site and Colon Library, you just come. You don't have to schedule. I think you can just show up. I don't think there's any pre-sale tickets for that. For the walking tour on the 27th, you will have to call. If you go to our website, you'll have to call that number that you just gave out.
Yeah.
Or go to All Things Serenity Yoga Studio, and there'll be tickets on sale there. Or just get a hold of one of us. We'll get you a ticket. But the walking tour is the only one that might be limited.
Okay.
As far as that goes.
So for all of these, they can call 269-251-0534 to get more information?
Yep. Or they can email us at that ucshphammondhouse@gmail.com.
Okay. Fantastic. Great. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Are there any upcoming plans to grow the museum's physical space or add to its collection?
Yeah. So right now we're renovating our upstairs. And we're excited that we're going to gain some more exhibit space up there. So we want to have revolving exhibits. We want to keep changing them out so that, if you come in 2025, you're not going to see maybe the same stuff that you saw in the previous year or whatever.
Oh, good.
So, yeah. So, get themes going on, like, veterans, have some veterans displays out, maybe focus on like the abolitionist aspect of it, or dress, certain decade or something like that. And then the one thing I said earlier that we're adding to our collection is the buggy house. We're so excited. We're going to add a whole new building. So we've got our bell tower on the one side, and then on the other side, we're going to have a matching small building that will house this buggy. And the public can come and look at this buggy anytime they want and get the history of it. And so I'm hoping to add to that. Sadly, we're a small museum, so we have to kind of be particular about what we take. But that's why I think it's important to have some of the storage space so that we can take this item out and maybe revolve the exhibits, unless it's something that, is on permanent display that we feel, is good to have out at all times. So I wish we had unlimited space. I wish we could have, a huge, building, but it's also kind of nice because, the bigger the building, the more the cost. And so trying to, as a small town, keep it keep it within, reason,
Yeah.
but also try to get creative about how you use that space. But obviously, money is an issue with a nonprofit like us.
Are
So,
there any other buildings around town that you're thinking of purchasing to have more exhibit space?
if I could have my wishes, there's a couple of buildings in town that are nice, but we know that that's probably not in our future. But there's a couple stores uptown, storefronts that are open. So we kind of hash around. An individual or two has come forward with interest in, hey, if I, this is my house, and maybe, there's talk of it, but nothing like permanent, nothing
Okay.
for sure.
It'll happen.
Yeah, I
'cause
hope
you're
so. I hope
valuable.
we could. Yes, I agree.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Bobbie, but it's time for us to take a break for a few minutes.
I think this is a great pause point in our conversation. I'll see you soon.
Listeners, we'll be right back after these important messages about joining and becoming a volunteer at the Union City Society for Historic Preservation. It's a wonderful organization that's doing a whole lot of good on behalf of the community.
Do you love history? Do you want to make a real difference in your community? The Union City Society for Historic Preservation is looking for passionate volunteers just like you. For 40 years, this dedicated nonprofit has been working to restore, protect, and share Union City's rich history. From preserving historic landmarks like the Hammond House to repairing headstones in forgotten cemeteries. But none of it happens without the hands and hearts of volunteers. And that's where you come in. Whether you can swing a hammer, sort old photographs, research genealogy, or simply lend a helping hand at events, there's a place for you at UCSHV.
No experience? No problem. Every effort, big or small, helps keep history alive for future generations. Join a passionate team of history lovers and community builders. Please visit Union City Society for Historic Preservation's Facebook page to learn more, or email ucshphammondhouse@gmail.com to get started. Call us at 269-251-0534, or you can stop by 210 Charlotte Street, Union City, Michigan, to see how you can become a part of history. Union City's past needs you to help shape its future. Volunteer today.
With life's countless demands, ticking off every task on your to-do list is a challenge. But here's the thing. Your local museums, historical, and genealogical societies rely on the support of volunteers, visitors, and donors like you. We're urging you to carve out time for these organizations as our communities hang in the balance.
Sustaining these treasured institutions is paramount. They safeguard our shared heritage for future generations to explore and cherish.
Let's make donating, volunteering, and visiting our local museum, genealogical, or historical society a vital part of your routine. Not only will you preserve our past, but you'll also empower the young minds that mean the world to us.
Don't wait.
Reach out today to your nearest museum, historical, or genealogical society and become a part of the legacy.
Back in time, when people got sick, they got well again due to the knowledge their mom had from her mom, and she in turn from her mom, and, well, you get the idea. A good knowledge of history is a good thing for all kinds of reasons when making decisions about the future. Learn the history of your ancestors and your community at your local historical or genealogical society. Historical traditions are there for a reason. Support your local society today and, like a good mom, pass the knowledge on to your kids.
You're listening to Preservation Oaks, where new episodes are created for you every 2 weeks. That's 26 episodes per season. Let me see. That's like 182 in dog episodes. Right?
And now, back to Preservation Oaks.
Welcome back to Preservation Oaks. I'm your host, and today we're joined once again by Ms. Bobbie Mathis from the Union City Society for Historic Preservation in Union City, Michigan. Let's dive back in. Bobbie, I'm learning so much. Thank you for being here and welcome back.
Oh, thanks for the break. I'm ready. Let's dive deeper into the Union City Society for Historic Preservation.
Bobbie, what's the most valuable ancient or popular exhibit or artifact in your collection?
Oh my goodness. Ancient. Well, probably have to be that meteor, right?
Right.
But I don't know if that's the most valuable. Our popular exhibit, probably our J.P. Palmer's, all those paintings that we have.
Yeah.
And I would also say we have the coffee grinder. There's a huge, big red coffee grinder that we have that used to be at a Chivas drugstore. And that is on our business section now. That's a big one. And then I'd have to say, let's see, what else do we have? I think our everybody comes to see our Palmers. And I would say maybe now that we have some of this Masonic stuff, we have some pretty cool Masonic furniture, chairs, altars, podiums, things like that. So in the collection, if I had to run in and save something, gosh, I think it'd be maybe all those Palmer paintings. They're pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And I think we have a prison gavel from Anderson Prison. There was a gavel, some sort of gavel that belonged to some kind of thing that happened to Anderson Prison. So maybe that might be it. Maybe our Palmers, I guess.
Andersonville was a Civil War Southern prison camp. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, Andersonville. We have some sort of gavel that goes with that. It was collected and stored and used according to one of our members, but I'd have to look at the provenance on that and see if that is accurate for sure.
Well, that's some good stuff for people to see when they come by.
Mm-hmm.
What steps is your organization taking to digitize documents and photos, and how will that improve accessibility for future generations?
So we have quite a bit of old newspapers, and so I would like to get those digitized, and we have a scanner, and I finally talked our organization into what I think we're going to get some Wi-Fi and the internet.
Oh, cool.
And so we want to be able to get a website. Also, one of our members has a daughter-in-law who I think is going to set up a website for us.
Oh, nice.
So with this website, in fact, it was your podcast that got me kind of going and thinking we need to push a little bit on this. And so we'll have a website that we can start scanning in old newspapers, photos, and hopefully, once we have that set up, it's going to really improve younger membership, people taking advantage of, all this cool stuff that we have.
Yeah. Are those newspapers already part of newspaper.com or one of those places?
Unfortunately, no, because this is a Union City publication. We have newspapers going back to the 1870s.
Whoa.
So this is we had like a couple publications that came through town, and it changed hands many times. But thanks to one of our members, her dad had the forethought to save all of them. And so we've got them in a tub right now, and nobody else has access to them but us. So that's what I want to see. God forbid if the house ever caught on fire, that we would be able to save those and have them in the iCloud somewhere.
Yeah. I hope you can get some volunteers and get that done. That's important.
Yeah, that's going to take some people helping us.
What tools or software does your organization rely on for cataloging and managing its collection?
So I'm using Excel. In the past, it was just a lot of, card catalog, filing cabinets. We're taking all that stuff, all of our donations, all of our accessions, and putting into Microsoft Excel. And I'm going to look into some of these other ones that you have mentioned to me. So, but that's the one right now that we're using the most. And I use a lot of Google Doc, Google, on my Google Drive. So getting the organization its own Google account and setting things up through that.
I'm no expert on this, but I ask my guests this question all the time, and the majority of them, from what I can tell, are using past perfect.
Okay. I have to look into that. Past perfect. I'm going to write that down.
And evidently it's changed. It used to be an application that would run on your local computer, but now it's web-based, and you can not only track your artifacts and accession them and deaccession them, or register them and deaccession them, but you can also track all of your membership and a whole bunch more.
Oh, that sounds like a all-in-one nutshell. I'd like that.
Can you tell us about the funding sources for your organization and what financial goals you're working toward this year?
Funding sources mainly come from memberships. And if anybody wants to become a member, we've got several levels of membership that they could join. So, you can be a single member, contributing member, participating member, supporting member, sustaining, and a lifetime member. If you donate $500, you could be a lifetime member.
Oh, that's the way to go.
Yeah, we've got them as low as 20. If you want to be, a single membership for a year, and that gets you your newsletter and, discounts on some of our books and our articles that we've published, because we do get a lot of funding from selling books that Marty Chart has written. He's written so many books that we sell, and also donations through events that we have. And one goal that we're working towards is getting that buggy house that we're really looking forward to.
Yeah.
And also, keeping the house, watertight. We're getting a new roof. And so things like that. Yeah. So things like, I think it's been a little bit since we've had one. So we're visiting that. Anything that you can do as far as membership or donations, or some people do memorial donations, when a loved one passes away, we'll get a donation in their name and their honor. We've added sponsorships. We've asked, the city and businesses to, sponsor our books, sponsor some of our events. And they've been very good about coming forward and helping us with some of our goals.
That's fantastic. I hope you get that new roof. Is the new roof already paid for, or you're fundraising for it now?
I think we're going to be okay on that one. I think we've got it where we can handle it, but then it's going to take away from some of the other things that we can do.
Right.
Like, the buggy house. And then, there's always something that needs to be fixed, or, we're doing that renovation upstairs. So we're looking at, bookcases, display cases, simple things like, just stuff to just drywall. We've got that up and we've patched it. And so, little things that have to do with the building maintenance.
Well, yeah, it's almost 200 years old, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, we've been pretty good. We've been pretty lucky so far, as, nothing major happening, but the house has good bones. So that's good.
Can people sponsor a room or anything like that?
In the past, we have had that. Yep. So we've had a couple. We've got outside, there's been benches that have been donated, bricks in their name when we did the dome project. The cemetery, when I did posts in the cemetery, people sponsored and got a plaque on the post there. So yeah, you can always have like a gift in their name. And usually what we'll do is, if they have it so much, they get a little plaque of our lifetime members. So they're on a plaque in our house of everyone who is a lifetime member of our organization.
There's lots of ways to support the organization, lots of ways to donate and get something in return, some kind of a benefit beyond just your donation.
Maybe books. We sell books, so you can get a great history book from us. We have so many history books that Marty Tardis is doing a new one. It's called 100 Years. Did you know? Little fun facts about Union City, weird things. Like, did you know that, Union City had its first, the female, Caucasian and buried in the cemetery? Or did you know Union City was part of this? Or, fun facts that people would have never dreamt about. So that's our newest one that's really popular.
Now, are your lectures, I know you give a lot of different lectures throughout the year, all year round, including the wintertime. Are they free to the public or are they members only?
The Christmas tea is for tickets. That is because they get the tea, and then there's refreshments, and then there's desserts and Christmas carols and stories. So that one is a ticketed event, and the walking tour is going to be a paid event too. You have to get tickets, but for the most part, my lectures are free. And cemetery tour is a ticketed event. And then the Hampton House, if you want to come to the house and just take a tour, that's free. That's totally free. You can come and walk around. And so we're trying to balance educating the community. Maybe it's just a donation, but we really do need to do some events that do charge. Otherwise, we're not going to have the funding that we need or, to keep this organization going. Oh, and another thing that I said is we have Venmo too. So trying to get us into the 21st century. So people, can't, check or cash, but it's Venmo, having that digital payment system helps a lot too.
Yep. I use them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're an educator in the community, and I imagine this is near and dear to your heart. Can you tell us about the ways your organization connects with the community through outreach and educational initiatives?
Yeah, we've partnered with Union City Schools, Interact. Sarah Conley has a group of kids that come through, and they're looking for ways that they can give back to the community. And they've come and they've helped rake, the Hammond House yard, or rake the leaves, or clean up the yard. And then some of them have come out and helped clean the headstones. So they're getting a little bit of history with that, community service with that. I would like to get more programs into offering, history about Union City to kids and having them come to these lectures. So I know some of them get school credit for doing some of it, but, inviting them, the high school teacher, I think maybe it was a middle school teacher, got a great idea to have a scavenger hunt through the Historical Society, and they could come in with their foreman. If they come through and they find certain items, they will get extra credit at school. So she encourages them to come into the Historical Society, look for these clues in these items, and then write down the history of it, and then bring it back to the classroom for credit. And I love that the teachers are doing that.
That's very creative. That's nice.
Yeah.
First time I've heard of that one. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, does your organization have a newsletter?
Yes, we do. We publish like I said, I think it's a quarterly, and comes with membership.
Okay.
And we update it through mail or email, either way.
Okay. A lot of people used to collect those all the time and have them on their shelf at home, that kind of thing.
Oh, sure. And we have an alumni spotlight, or what is this alumni member doing now, or, focus on the past. It's a really good newsletter that has a lot of great information, trivia, things like that.
Yeah, that's what makes them really cool. What volunteer roles does your organization offer for community members interested in getting involved?
So they can come out and help plant flowers at the cemetery. They can volunteer to do any acting in the cemetery tour. They can come and be part of regular tour groups. We just need people to come in sometimes and sit at the museum and help, give tour related information and history about the museum. Like I said, these little acting within our group, maybe adding on to just even sitting in and helping us decide, decision making. So there's a lot of ways you can get involved. We're always looking for help in just about every facet you can imagine.
Oh, yeah. So much to do all the time. And right now, you're open by appointment only. If you had more volunteers, would you try to be open longer, or is that in the cards?
Absolutely. If we had, now if we could get, website up and running, that would be great to have a research center, there where people could come in and, look through, we have this publication here, come and look through the actual, newspaper, or come and look through, these are the books we have. What would you like to see? And so if we had more volunteers, we could say, the Hammond House is open every Saturday from here to this, or it's open, during the weekday for people, different business schedules. So I think if more people got involved, then we could have, more accessibility to the museum.
Could you tell us about any significant publications your organization has produced and their impact on the community?
Sure. Our resident author is Marty Chard, and he's published the following. He's published The History of Union City, books 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the main book. A lot of people like that one because it talks about everything, about all of it. And then he's also done a publication about Union City School, the schools in Union City and the different schools that were related in around even the rural schools, the little one-house schools. And then he's done one on J.P. Palmer, and that's been a very popular one because he found every Palmer everywhere that anybody's ever owned, and he wrote the entire book on the Palmers from beginning to end.
Wow.
That's been popular. And then he also wrote 2 books, one about the St. Joseph River, which was very cool because we had PBS come through South Bend, Indiana, and they did a documentary about the St. Joe River. And we were part of the documentary. They came here and they interviewed him, Marty Chard, and some of our older members to tell us about the significance of the St. Joseph River. And so Marty's book that went along with the St. Joseph River, it was a great partnership between us and that news channel that did the documentary on it. And then he also did a book on the Union Lake, which is our big lake here,
Mm-hmm.
and the history of everybody and all the impact that lake and the St. Joe Rivers had on our community.
Wow, Marty sounds so prolific and so intelligent. You're lucky to have him.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And he keeps saying it's his last book, and then he writes another one. But we're happy to get them published and give them out and let people have access to those.
Now, I'd like to provide listeners with the contact information for the organization once more. Their website is on facebook.com/UCSHP. You can email them at ucshphammondhouse@gmail.com. Their address is 210 Charlotte Street, Union City, Michigan, 49094. You can phone them, and I hope you do, at 269-251-0534. And remember, your visits right now are by appointment only. And so please call ahead and schedule that visit. It's well worth it. Now, you've mentioned that you need a new roof and you think you're well on the way to that. And you're going to build a buggy house for presenting and exhibiting the buggy that's in such wonderful shape. But what other ongoing initiatives or pressing needs does your organization have that community members can support?
Oh my goodness, there's always something, right? So we'd like to have a place where if we wanted to do an event, we could have an event somewhere.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Any organization that wants to step forward and, have a place where we can do bigger lectures, bigger things than, because our house can, only seat so many people. So having some place for a bigger venue would be amazing and helpful.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Does your organization take requests from the public for genealogical research or consulting? And if so, can you outline the free services your organization provides and those that require a fee both for members and the public?
Some people have asked me on the side to do some genealogy on certain family members. And since I pretty much everybody I meet, I do their family tree if they let me. I've done some genealogy work on the side. I don't charge a whole lot for that, depending on the hour, maybe $10 an hour or something like that, if they wanted me to look something up for them. But anything else that's just like a historical question, I don't charge a fee for that. I have access to these databases, and I feel like that's kind of like goes with the territory if they want to know like the history of a certain house.
Oh,
There's something I've been wanting to get into, and that's house genealogy, finding history on certain people's houses. I know there's a lady out there that does that, but we have had some write-ups in the past of some of our earliest houses, and I do that for free.
Oh, very cool. That's great that you do that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
As a history enthusiast, what do you think the world will look like 100 years from now?
Well, I'm hoping that we have some place where we can have access to certain things. Like if I'm thinking like in the terms of cemetery stuff, of course, I'm always cemetery minded. Some of the advances they've done in just tombstone technology, like the QR codes on the tombstones.
Yeah, I've seen those.
You could just point your phone like at the tombstone and it gives like the individual's like important moments in history and videos, and you can hear the person and see the person. I guess I'd like to see more things like that come our way, where technology is more of not taking it over, but really being beneficial to keeping, certain things preserved. So whether that be a way for more people to be able to take advantage of that, I'd like to see easier ways maybe for people to, like these old photos that people have. It's amazing what AI technology can do with making like if these photos move, it's crazy. Or colorize old photos or preserve the photos so that you can see them better.
AI can do all that right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would that look like, 100 years from now? How could we make that even, better? There's got to be something in that way. Being an art teacher, I like to think that there's going to be more interactive ways to maybe get some of this history, but keep it in the Ethernet or just something. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. It's crazy. I could have never just think of where we were at a few years ago when we didn't even have the internet. And look how fast things have progressed.
Of the stuff that's coming from what I've been reading. It may be interesting to you, and I don't know if it would be or not, but I'll bring it up, that you could put an appeal out to your members to collect locks of their hair so that it would be put into your archives so that someday down the road they could be cloned.
Oh, yeah. That would be something else. We would have everybody. Yeah. How there's this guy who is taking, I think it's like trying to use plasma to keep himself younger. So at what extent do you go to try to keep yourself, going and going and going? And I don't know. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
I have no idea.
Live that long, you're going to outlive all the people you know.
Nobody's ever done it before, so we won't know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, I'd like to see, I think for me, more technology on helping, like they have ground penetrating radar, GPR, for like when they try to find graves and figure out who's in the grave.
Yeah.
And figure out if there's somebody buried there or not. I don't know, some more preservationist stuff where you can have more tools at your hand to do things like that, I guess.
Going to be fantastic in the future for our grandkids and their kids. It's just going to be amazing.
Yeah, there was a picture of something they had with a digital cemetery where you could just go in and you'd have a flash drive and you could go up. And so instead of like tombstones, you'd go up to a flash drive and grab it, and that would be the way you'd have like everything stored for everybody, all their whole life on a flash, or some sort of thing that would be a lot of information in just a small space.
Yeah, and it's run by the state or the county or whoever, and it just collects that stuff.
Gosh, to be able to hear this, I would have loved to hear stories from 100 years ago. What do we have now? We don't have any recordings, so I love that we have so much saved now, archived.
Yeah.
With how we live.
Fantastic. Thank you for your input on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Is there any other additional message or important information you'd like to share with the community or your members?
I would just like to say that, come on out, join us. we'd love to have, more members and people that love history and want to be a part of it. I think it's really important that you preserve your past and you know your roots and where you come from. And what better way to do that than to get involved and start, experiencing, what we do here and just be a part of it.
Fantastic. Thank you. How does your organization measure the impact you have on visitors and the community?
A lot of feedback through when we have people join or resubscribe. They give us feedback on that. And I would say they do stories on it, in our newspapers. They cover it and we hear about it a lot. I hear it on Facebook all the time, oh, we love what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Or when they come to our events and they come through like, oh my gosh, this is such a great museum. Why isn't more people come through here? And so I think the four founders who set this museum up did such a good job that it's really impactful of the wide variety of things that we have for such a small community. So they're letting us know, hey, we want more stuff like this. They're craving more. So we know we must be doing something right.
Yep. Okay. So you're getting more direct feedback.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And also, you can see who's attended and keep track and keep reinviting those people back and encourage them to do that. And also, even outside when I travel and do lectures, I'm trying to get it out to them and do networking so that we all have all these small communities, can help each other out.
Yeah. It's very, very important.
There shouldn't be any competition between anybody. It should be, we all want everybody to do well.
Well, Bobbie, I'm grateful for your time and your insights. It's been fascinating to hear about the dedication and heart you put into serving your members and the community and the wonderful cemetery restorations and how you're sharing your knowledge. It's been a real highlight to meet you, and I appreciate you. Keep up the great work, and thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, and it's been a pleasure.
And with that, folks, we'll end our time with our guest, Ms. Bobbie Mathis, president of the Union City Society for Historic Preservation, located in Union City, Michigan. Listeners, please stay tuned for my comments and wrap-up, which is coming up next. Hey, welcome back. As we wrap up another fascinating episode of Preservation Oaks, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on the incredible journey we've taken today. Our guest for this episode, Ms. Bobbie Mathis, has been an absolute treasure to speak with. As the president of the Union City Society for Historic Preservation, Bobbie embodies dedication, expertise, and an unwavering passion for preserving history. It's been an honor to hear her insights and stories about the rich and layered past of Union City, Michigan. Bobbie shared with us the heart and soul of Union City's history, its people, its places, and the deep connection that history has to our present and future. We explored the Hammond House Museum, a centerpiece of Branch County's heritage and a structure that has stood the test of time since the mid-19th century. Thanks to the unwavering efforts of Bobbie and her fellow preservationists, this Greek Revival gem continues to educate and inspire visitors, offering a glimpse into the lives of those who came before us. We also touched on some truly moving human interest stories, the kind that stay with you long after the episode ends. From the astonishing discovery that Union City played a significant role in the Underground Railroad, the work being done to preserve and maintain the local cemetery, to the courageous abolitionist John Zimmerman, who risked everything to defy bounty hunters and help enslaved people find freedom. That kind of bravery reminds us that history isn't just about dates and buildings. It's about the actions of individuals who shape our world. Another powerful story was the tale of Dead Man's Hollow, a local legend brought to life by Bobbie's research, a chilling yet historically significant piece of Union City's past. This story reminds us how folklore and history intertwine, and how dedicated preservationists like Bobbie work tirelessly to ensure these narratives aren't lost to time. We also heard about the heartbreaking story of Union City's lost high school and the relentless efforts to preserve its memory through reclaimed bricks and the beautiful bell tower. The loss of historical landmarks is always a challenge, but the resilience and commitment of the Union City Society for Historic Preservation ensure that even when physical structures disappear, their legacy endures. Now, as much as this society has accomplished, they need help. They have big plans for the future, but they can't do it alone. Right now, they're working towards some major projects, and they could use the financial and volunteer support of history lovers like you. They're in need to replace the roof of the Hammond House Museum, an essential task to preserve the structure for future generations. They also have an exciting plan to construct a new carriage house, a perfect home for their newly acquired doctor's buggy, which will provide a unique and engaging addition to the museum's exhibits. And if that's not enough, they want to stand up a new website, and they dream of expanding their event space so they can host lectures, educational programs, and larger community gatherings. Beyond financial contributions, the Society is seeking volunteers. One of their greatest challenges is ensuring the museum can be open to the public more frequently. If you have a passion for history and a little time to spare, consider joining their team, whether it's guiding tours, helping with restoration projects, or lending a hand at events. Every effort makes a difference. If you'd like to support this incredible organization, here's how you can get involved. You can visit their Facebook page at facebook.com/UCSHP for updates on events, historical tidbits, and ways to help. You can email them at ucshphammondhouse@gmail.com to inquire about volunteer opportunities or donations. You can give them a call at 269-251-0534 to schedule a visit to the Hammond House Museum. The museum and their headquarters are located at 210 Charlotte Street, Union City, Michigan 49094. Just be sure to call ahead, as visits are currently by appointment only. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Union City's past. It's organizations like the Union City Society for Historic Preservation that keep our nation's history alive and accessible. And it's people like Ms. Bobbie Mathis who remind us why this work is so essential. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving us a review. Your support helps amplify the voices of these dedicated historians and ensures their work reaches more people who care about preserving the past. And with that, we bring this episode of Preservation Oaks to a close. If questions occur to you and you'd like more information, please connect with the organization via the contact information provided. If you're a listener in the area the organization serves, or if you're a listener researching ancestors in the community the organization serves and you're not already a member, please consider joining and supporting them. I hope this information helps the audience understand how valuable the organization is to the community and what kinds of excellent services they have to offer to their members and the public. The Union City Society for Historic Preservation is truly one of our preservation oaks. All right, that's a wrap for this episode. Music used today is from Cymbalbird, Aaron Lieberman, Jeremy Corpus, and Scott Holmes. Microstream Radio is a registered trademark. You can visit us at www.microstreamradio.com. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted by Microstream Radio. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, reproduced, copied, or used anywhere without the written permission of Microstream Radio. Hopefully you found today's episode useful, informative, and thought-provoking. If so, please like, comment, and subscribe. Remember that being free means being free to be curious. and that historical and genealogical societies and museums allow us to discover the past, be free to explore, where curiosity opens every door. Thanks to everybody for listening. Stay cozy, curious, and keep exploring the incredible stories that shape our world. Remember to cherish and support the preservation of history in your own communities. This is Sean Radcliffe. We'll see you all next time on Preservation Oaks, and until then, keep on giving and keep on living the good life.